Hey everyone, I decided that I'd make this video about dwarf planets, about specifically 7 dwarf planets known as the 7 dwarves. This is some information on astrolog.org that I found a while ago, and that has really been resonating with me. So let me know in the comments if you resonate with this information, and if you like the content and the way that I'm putting this stuff out here, then like and subscribe, and I'll definitely be making much more content concerning these dwarf planets and other lesser known aspects of astrology. So let's get into it. Dwarf planets. Astrologers must remember also that there are several undiscovered planets which are producing pulls and shifts and focusing streams of energy upon our Earth. Pluto is one of them, and having now emerged into manifestation, or rather into recognition, to it will be assigned all the unexplained conditions. This is a quote from a treatise on white magic, page 438 to 439, published in 1951. Yes, so I find that since Pluto is a dwarf planet, and since the discovery of Pluto has led to so much evolutionary change in society and in the psychological aspects of who we are as human beings, I find that these other dwarf planets are just as important, in their own ways, of course. Astronomy defines a planet to be an object which meets the following 3 criteria. 1. It orbits the sun or other star. 2. It is large and dense enough to have achieved hydrostatic equilibrium or be spherical under its own gravity. 3. It's largely cleared its orbit of asteroids and other minor bodies. That definition gives our sun the 8 planets, Mercury through Neptune, along with several dwarf planets. A dwarf planet is almost a planet. However, it has not met criterion number 3, i.e., has not cleared its orbit of other bodies. There are at least 5 dwarf planets in our solar system. Pluto is one, which was considered a full planet until 2006, when similar-sized bodies were discovered in similar orbits. CERES in the asteroid belt is another, which is round but shares its orbit with all the other asteroids. There are also the more recently discovered dwarf planets ERIS, HAUMEA, MAKEMAKE, beyond Pluto's orbit. Possible dwarf planets include asteroid 10, Hygiea, in the inner asteroid belt, which may be rounded, and the additional large trans-Neptunian bodies GONGGONG, QUAOAR, SEDNA, and ORCUS. This means there are 7 dwarf planets or possible dwarf planets located beyond Pluto. These significant 7 trans-Pluto bodies can be called the 7 dwarves, and they are all astrologically important. The outer solar system is an interesting area and features the Kuiper belt beyond Neptune's orbit, which is like a second asteroid belt, along with the scattered disk beyond that. The bodies out here move very slowly and have orbital periods centuries long. Many of them are named after creator deities from various cultures, and therefore represent more abstract, generational, and planetary level energies. This is similar to how Uranus, Neptune, Pluto are more psychological in energy compared to the inner, more personal planets which are visible to the naked eye. And I'd like to say that another reason why it is very important and significant to recognize these dwarf planets as being powerful and potent in themselves is that what one names, one gives power. And since we have named these dwarf planets largely after indigenous deities, there is a decolonization aspect happening here as well. Since with basic astrology, the basic planets are named after Greek deities, I think it's very important, and it speaks volumes about our evolution as a human species that we start to pay attention to these dwarf planets as well, and to indigenous cultures as well, and to giving land back, to really seeing this revolution as what it truly is. Note that a dwarf planet can and probably should be considered just a type of planet, and not necessarily less significant than a traditional planet, either astronomically or astrologically. In other words, all dwarf planets are planets. The problem with the name dwarf planet is that it implies the planet is small in size, when it may not be. Tiny Mercury is smaller than certain planetary moons, but it's still a traditional planet because there's nothing else major in its orbit. Similarly, if a Jupiter-sized body were to be discovered way out in the scattered disk, it would only be a dwarf planet because there's other bodies there, when it would be larger than any traditional planet. Therefore, it would make more sense to call traditional planets something like lone planets because they're by themselves in their orbit, and call dwarf planets linked planets because they have many neighbors. That's similar to the rocky planet versus gas giant planet distinction we already have to classify them. Okay, that was a great intro. Now we're going to get into the 7 dwarves. So good. I'm just going to, before I really get into this, top off my tea. Okay, let that cool. The 7 dwarves. The significance of the other planetary bodies of great number within the solar ring pass not. The entire solar sphere is full of such bodies, characterized by the same features as are the 7 and the 10, and each of them in some degree has an effect upon the whole. There are more than 115 of such bodies to be reckoned with, and all are at varying stages of vibratory impulse. They have definite orbits, they turn upon their axes, they draw their life and substance from the sun. This fact will be demonstrated towards the close of the century. A treatise on cosmic fire, page 793 to 794, published 1951. And if I do say so myself, that is a really fire title, pun intended. The table below summarizes the 7 dwarves, or the 7 largest bodies beyond Pluto. Ranked in order of size, Pluto itself and dwarf planet CERES are included for comparison. Listed is the planet's name, its minor planet designation catalog number, which is the number that you would put into astro.com in the yellow box in order to include it in your chart, its ray in esoteric astrology, its orbital period around the sun in years, its diameter in kilometers, its average distance from the sun in astronomical units, or AU, the number of known moons it has, the year it was discovered, its current location as of the start of 2023, the origin of its name, and the primary keywords of its meaning. And this video obviously is being filmed and posted in 2024, so some of these have likely moved in their position. Since all of the 7 dwarves except SEDNA have at least one moon, these planetary moons should have astrological meanings too, and could be interpreted in a similar fashion as the moons of the inner planets, and be a way to personalize the slow-moving body to each individual. Now, first we have CERES, catalog number 1. This was the first asteroid technically discovered and recorded in our cataloging society, right? The period around the sun in years is 4.60. The diameter is 939 kilometers. The distance from the sun, average, in AU is 2.767. 0 moons, discovered in 1801, and its location at the start of 2023 is at 6 degrees in Libra. named after the Roman goddess of agriculture, and keywords include nurturing and fertility. PLUTO, catalog number 134340, ray number 1. Orbital period around the sun in years is 248.54. Diameter in kilometers is 2,376. Distance in AU from the sun is 39.529. Moons, 5 moons. Discovered in 1930. Located in 2023 at 28 degrees Capricorn, named after the Roman god of death. Keywords are death and transformation. Now we're going to get into the actual 7 dwarves. 1. ERIS. Catalog number is 136199. Ray is 3. Orbital period around the sun is 559 years. Diameter in kilometers is 2,326. Distance from the sun in astronomical units is 67.864. She has 1 moon, and she was discovered in 2005. Her location as of 2023 is 23 degrees Aries, named after the Greek goddess of discord. Excuse me. Keywords are discord, chaos, and scheming. The second dwarf is named HAUMEA. Catalog number 136108. Ray number is 2. Orbital period around the sun is 283.77 years. Diameter is 1,560 kilometers. Distance from the sun in astronomical units is 43.182. She has 2 moons, and she was discovered in 2004. As of the beginning of 2023, she was at 1 degree in Scorpio, named after the Hawaiian goddess of creation. Keywords are mothering and one as many. The third dwarf is named MAKEMAKE. Catalog number is 136472. Ray is the first ray in esoteric astrology. Orbital period around the sun in years is 306.22. The diameter is 1,454 kilometers. The distance from the sun in astronomical units is 45.431. He has 1 moon, and he was discovered on March 31st, 2005. His location as of 2023 was 9 degrees in Libra, and I do know that he is actually still there because he went retrograde, and 9 degrees of Libra is my earth sign. So, Makemake is named after the Easter Island or Rapa Nui, god of humanity, okay? And keywords that have to do with Makemake are fathering and creation. So I sort of see the 2 dwarf planets of Haumea and Makemake as a mother and father archetype for all of the dwarf planets. Next up, we have GONGGONG, catalog number 225088. Ray number is 4 in esoteric astrology. Orbital period is 544 years. Diameter is 1,230 kilometers. Distance from the sun in AU is 67.474. Has 1 moon, discovered in 2007, and as of 2023, was located at 4 degrees of Pisces, named after the Chinese god of water. Keywords include rebellion and integration. Next up, we have QUAOAR, catalog number 50,000, that's 50000, ray number 7, orbital period is 288.84 years, diameter is 1,121 kilometers, distance from the sun in astronomical units is 43.695, and has 1 moon, discovered in 2002, and in 2023 was at 7 degrees of Capricorn. Named after the Native American, or specifically the Tongva, god of creation. Keywords include ritual creation and law. The 6th dwarf is SEDNA, catalog number 90377, ray number 6. Orbital period in years around the sun is 10,666.28. Diameter is 1,060 kilometers. Distance from the sun in AU is 484.548. 0 moons. Discovered in 2003, and as in 2023, she was at 28 degrees of Taurus. Now, very soon she's going to be moving into Gemini, and I'll touch on this as we continue down this page, but keeping that in mind, let's move forward. Named after the Inuit goddess of the sea, keywords include trauma and acceptance. Number 7, the 7th dwarf and the final dwarf is ORCUS. Catalog number 90482. Ray number 5. Orbital period around the sun in years is 245.19. Diameter is 910 kilometers. Distance from the sun in astronomical units is 30.281. Has one moon called VANTH. Discovered in 2004, and in 2023, at the beginning of 2023, was at 14 degrees of Virgo. Named after the Roman god, specifically I've also read the Etruscan god of punishing the damned, also ruling over oaths, promises. Keywords include karma and reviewing. So, as with the main planets themselves, interpreting dwarf planets is based on both the physical characteristics of the planet and its name in mythology. This is key. This is essentially astrology. We have named these bodies in the sky after myths that our brothers and sisters, our human brothers and sisters, have created. We've associated those objects in the sky with those myths, as well as with their own physical descriptive qualities, which is essentially astrology, as well as the math and the geometry of the aspects. For example, Mars is a blood red color and named after the god of war. The following quote illustrates how planets get named appropriately. The names of the planets are not the result of arbitrary choice, but the planets name themselves, okay? This is from a treatise on white magic, page 439, published in 1951. Now, let's go over Eris. Eris is the Greek goddess of discord, strife, and chaos. Unlike her brother Ares, god of war, Eris enjoyed conflict itself and often didn't take sides. Eris started the Trojan War with a golden apple by offering it to the most fair, which caused the other goddesses to fight over it. One moment. Okay. Just bring this over here. Gotta check on the babies. See also to the Chinese parable of how to kill 3 warriors with 2 peaches. Okay, so this reminds me specifically of the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Eris was actually portrayed in the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and I'm sure that you can find it on YouTube somewhere. So, the Chinese parable of how to kill 3 warriors with 2 peaches is another example of stirring up trouble by getting your enemies to fight each other, not to mention the fruit motif. The discovery of Eris itself produced discord and caused Pluto to be demoted to dwarf planet status. Eris is 98% of Pluto's diameter, 27% denser, and unlike Pluto, it's fully outside Neptune's orbit. So there are reasons to consider Eris at least as if not more astrologically significant than Pluto. Good argument. The glyph for Eris is clashing spear tips. Eris has one known moon, DYSNOMIA, named after her daughter, the goddess of lawlessness. Eris asks us, what are we fighting for and why? Or what outdated or crystallized ideas and institutions need disruption? In esoteric astrology, Eris is associated with ray number 3 of creative intelligence due to its cunning and scheming, and can represent the will to evolve and the battles and struggles of evolution and discipleship. Website mythologysource.com says it well. The ERIS of fighting was cruel and merciless, but the domestic ERIS could use a man's discontent and competitive nature to make his life better through hard work. One ERIS focused her discontent outward and battled against other people, while the other ERIS focused inward and inspired a man to fight against his own bad habits. Very great quote, because that combative quality is very useful when you do fight against the bad habits that you have accumulated. Next up is HAUMEA, who is the Hawaiian goddess of fertility. She's the mother of Pele, the well-known goddess of volcanoes, who also does have an asteroid. And I believe, I'm not quite positive on this, so don't quote me. Look it up for yourself, but I believe that Pele's number is like 2202, her catalog number. She's the mother of Pele and other Hawaiian deities, splitting them off from herself. Haumea is egg-shaped, which aligns with fertility due to its super fast 3.9-hour rotation period. As any mother knows, mothering is a very busy role. Haumea also has rings and 2 moons, Hi'iaka and Namaka. These moons are named after Haumea's daughters, who were goddesses of hula dancing and the sea, respectively. Haumea's glyph is a woman giving birth. Haumea is the archetypal mother and is the energy of birthing into manifestation, sacrifice, and giving of oneself. Haumea asks, what are we giving birth to? And for what causes are we giving of ourselves? So the myth of Haumea, literally, she split her body off from herself, and from that part of her body, her child was born. So for what causes are we giving of ourselves? It's a great question to ask. In esoteric astrology, Haumea is associated with ray number 2 of love/wisdom and the concepts of unity, oneness, and the one and the many. Makemake is the Easter Island or Rapa Nui, god of fertility who created humanity. Makemake is said to be chief of the eggs, to have had no mother or wife, and to be associated with the Birdman faith of the Easter Island people. Makemake, therefore, has a very archetypal masculine energy and is the energy of will, direction, design, and manifestation. How are we individually and collectively fertilizing the world with our intentions, ideas, and actions? Makemake has 1 moon, but it hasn't been given a permanent name yet. Makemake's glyph is a petroglyph of a face. In esoteric astrology, Makemake is associated with Ray 1, will and purpose and the right use of them, and the office of the Manu, the director of the human root races. So like I said before, Makemake and Haumea are certainly the archetypal father and mother of these 7 dwarf planets. GONGGONG is the Chinese god of water, destruction, and chaos. In early times, he fought the fire god for control of the world, but was defeated and exiled. In his anger, GONGGONG had a tantrum and knocked the planet askew, which is why Earth's axis is tilted. This may seem negative, and it certainly can represent destruction or calamity. However, every planet can be expressed in a more enlightened manner, and GONGGONG can also represent major shifts in consciousness or environment, integration of polarities, or necessary destruction of that which needs to be released. GONGGONG has 1 moon, XIANGLIU, I hope I'm saying that correctly, named after the venomous and gluttonous 9-headed snake monster who attended GONGGONG. GONGGONG's glyph is a Chinese temple with a serpent's tail. Note that the Chinese character gong means together, common, or share, and that character's glyph is similar to the upper half of GONGGONG's glyph, so there are positive potentials. In esoteric astrology, GONGGONG is associated with Ray 4 of harmony through conflict and the concepts of duality and counter forces, facing the dweller on the threshold, overcoming dark forces in general and redeeming the dense matter of the moon chain or the previous solar system. Wow. QUAOAR is the Tongva Native American creator god who is either male or genderless. He emerged into being after an earlier, more tyrannical god passed away. In that sense, QUAOAR is similar to a new and more loving Christ-like figure in comparison to a classic, wrathful, Jehovah-like ruler. QUAOAR danced and sang the other gods and world into being. This was a group dance in which QUAOAR brought into being the first god. QUAOAR and the first god danced together to bring forth the second god. All three brought in the next god, and so on and so forth. QUAOAR also established law for people and the new world. QUAOAR has one moon, WEYWOT, named after the god of the sky who QUAOAR created. QUAOAR was the largest trans-Neptunian body at the time of its discovery, hence it being given the special catalog number 50,000. QUAOAR's glyph is a diamond letter Q with a canoe shape landing upon it. In esoteric astrology, QUAOAR is associated with ray number 7 of order and ceremonial magic and is associated with New Age energies, group and ashramic dynamics, and understanding or establishing new rules and laws. In contradistinction with some dwarf planets which may seem negative, QUAOAR may seem wholly positive, and it usually is, but not necessarily. QUAOAR can also represent fears of change or of increased group orientation, or one's individuality being suppressed by rules and regulations imposed by a controlling organization. And what this also makes me think of is coming back to the QUAOAR inheriting the earth after a more tyrannical ruler. Yes, it is very similar to the Christ story, to the story of Yeshua. Yes, I relate to that and I feel that. Also, I just want to mention that it also reminds me of Avatar Aang in Avatar The Last Airbender. So when they're talking about the negativity that comes with QUAOAR or the challenges that come with QUAOAR, I also want to say that QUAOAR can represent inheriting something that inheriting a realm of being that has been traumatized in the past, and that you, as the blissful being that you are, have to reach within yourself and find this sort of compassion that helps the traumatized ones to understand that you are not like the tyrannical ruler from before. It's very similar to, like I said, Avatar Aang, and how he came after Roku and was frozen away for 100 years. And it might even also, QUAOAR might even also have to do with the guilt that comes from that. The feelings of deep guilt and being projected upon deeply that come with like the inheritance of the throne in that way. So I just wanted to mention that. Delicious. This is carrot, turmeric, and ginger. So nice. All right. Now, moving on to Sedna, who is the Inuit goddess of the sea. Her father threw her from a boat into the ocean, and when she tried to climb back aboard, he chopped her fingers off. Sad face. There's literally a sad face written next to that. Like, that is pretty messed up. Sedna sank to the bottom of the sea, where she eventually accepted her role as the sea goddess, and her severed fingers became the seals and other sea creatures which she cared for. I also read about 30 minutes ago more about Sedna's myth, and her myth also involves arranged marriage. Her father arranged her marriage, and really a deep, deep father wound, as well as like there was a crow man that she married, and also like she married a dog and had like puppy human hybrids. So like this is a very layman's term of the myth, and I'm going to make a video on each of these dwarf planets, getting really deeply into them and really honoring their essences, because they all deserve to be honored, rightfully so. But I just wanted to give you guys a little bit more background on that. And also, they said her severed fingers became the seals and the other sea creatures here. I also read that the palms of her hands became the whales and the dolphins. So marine mammals in particular, and of the Arctic Sea in particular. There are different versions of her, such as in one, she was a vicious monster who tried to eat her parents, so her father threw her overboard in self-defense, while in another, she was innocent and her father threw her overboard to save himself. Sedna's energy is about trauma, victimization, and transcending it, turning bad experiences into strengths, acceptance, and divine indifference. Healing and integrating depths and stewardship and caretaking, even when we don't want to at first. Unlike all the other 7 dwarves, Sedna has no known moons. Sedna's glyph is Inuit characters which look like a leaping seal. Sedna has a very long period of over 10,000 years, which is much longer than any of the others, and is closer in period to super long cycles, such as the 25,765-year precession of the equinoxes, or the nodal movement of planets other than Earth's moon. In esoteric astrology, Sedna is associated with Ray 6 of emotional turmoil and the astral seas. And following along with the Avatar The Last Airbender mentions, Sedna gives me Katara energy. Orcus is the Roman god of the underworld. While Pluto is the king of the underworld, Orcus is the punisher of the damned. This planet may seem negative, however, remember that Orcus only punishes the guilty who deserve it. Orcus is therefore like a sword of Damocles hanging over one's head, which will fall, and if appropriate. Orcus is associated with balancing karma, things that need to be made right, along with endings and reviewing one's life in general. Some have reported major Orcus transits in which nothing appeared to happen, which suggests they had no bad karma to be balanced. Orcus has one moon, VANTH, named after a demon who guides souls to the underworld, to either peace or torture, as the case may be. Note the relation of Orcus and its relatively large moon, VANTH, to Pluto and its relatively large moon, Charon. Both have similar orbits but are about 90 degrees apart, so they are never conjunct or opposite. The glyph for Orcus is like the letters OR. That's also a skull shape. In esoteric astrology, Orcus is associated with Ray 5 of concrete action and intelligent, impersonal analysis of matters, and pralayas, or periods between incarnations or other manifestations. Good to know. Okay. Dwarf rulerships. Now this is where it really started to deeply resonate with me. I mean, it all resonates, and I see it all. I accept and I receive it all. But this stuff right here, these rulerships really resonate with me because it kind of completes the picture of the 12 signs, okay? Dwarf planets can have rulerships, or a sign where they express most strongly. In this respect, they're no different from the classical planets and their rulerships. Similar to Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, dwarf planets represent more abstract energies, and therefore their rulerships are more psychological in nature, and only play a role once somebody is on a path of self-development. Astrologer Stephen Forrest in The Inner Sky says the following about the rulerships of the 3 outer planets, which apply to the dwarves too. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto represent only possibilities. They signify transcendent, unnatural qualities, qualities attainable only through intentional work on the self, unlike the classical planets. No positive manifestation of their functions can ever be triggered automatically. Until we purposefully move to transform our being, we see only their shadows. Without effort, these three mysterious symbols remain to the spirit exactly as they are to the eye, invisible. ERIS, Libra. ERIS challenges one to face both inner and outer discord and achieve a greater balance from it. So expresses strongly in Libra, as described by so expresses strongly in Libra. Libra, as described by Stephen Forrest, has the end point to calm down, or in other words, to face discord and return situations to equilibrium. Eris is like a darker and more mature version of Venus. So Eris is deeper and more involved than just being a peaceful and attractive ruler like Venus, which classically rules Libra. Dark Star Astrology, Zane Stein, and Wikipedia also say that Eris rules or is associated with Libra. HAUMEA, Cancer. HAUMEA challenges one to really give of themselves and sacrifice, so expresses strongly in Cancer. HAUMEA is a heightened and more involved version of the moon, which also rules Cancer. So HAUMEA is deeper than just being emotional or a mother figure like the moon. MAKEMAKE, Leo. MAKEMAKE challenges one to properly train, use, and direct their sense of self-will, so expresses well in Leo. MAKEMAKE is a more abstract and psychological version of the sun, which also rules Leo. However, MAKEMAKE is deeper and more involved than just being self-oriented like the sun. GONGGONG, Aries. GONGGONG challenges us to channel forces of destruction to release the expired and produce positive change, and as a result achieve true freedom, so expresses strongly in Aries. However, GONGGONG's energy is deeper and more involved than just being aggressive like Mars, which classically rules Aries. QUAOAR, Taurus. QUAOAR's alignment with dancing and creation expresses strongly in Taurus. QUAOAR also sets up the new age, and in esoteric astrology, Taurus represents spiritual light and illumination, as expressed through the group and ashram. However, QUAOAR's energy is deeper and more involved than just being artistic or material, as covered by Venus, which classically rules Taurus. SEDNA, Gemini. Gemini is the one sign that is solely Ray 2, which fits the sensitivity of and depth of SEDNA. The two states of SEDNA, mortal on the surface leading to goddess within the sea, are similar to Gemini's Castor and Pollux, in which one was mortal and the other divine. In esoteric astrology, the two phases of Gemini are summarized with the mantra, I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. Very, very, very nice. Just wanted to mention also that very soon, I believe on April 25th, I have it written somewhere, but I believe on the 25th, Sedna will be moving into Gemini for the first time in thousands of years. So yeah, that is pretty potent. That is a pretty amazing thing that's happening. And I really think that Sedna's rulership with Gemini corresponds to the myth of her losing her fingers, having them cut off by her father, and them becoming the sea creatures as well, because the hands rule Gemini. ORCUS, Capricorn. Orcus's impersonal alignment with right timing and karma expresses strongly in Capricorn. However, Orcus's energy is deeper and more involved than just the areas of time and restriction covered by Saturn, which classically rules Capricorn. Now, I'm going to just, what we have here is a table of the 12 signs and of their two rulers. I love my organizational brain just absolutely adores that this was put together and that it fits so well, honestly, because yeah, I just love that kind of stuff. So Aries, classic ruler, Mars, modern co-ruler, GONGGONG. Taurus, classic ruler, Venus. Modern co-ruler, QUAOAR. Gemini, classic ruler, Mercury. Modern co-ruler, SEDNA. Cancer, classic ruler, Moon. Modern co-ruler, HAUMEA. Leo, classic ruler, Sun. Modern co-ruler, MAKEMAKE. Virgo, classic ruler, Mercury. Modern co-ruler, CERES. Libra, classic ruler, Venus. Modern co-ruler, ERIS. Scorpio, classic ruler, Mars. Modern co-ruler, Pluto. Sagittarius, classic ruler, Jupiter. Modern co-ruler, Earth. Capricorn, classic ruler, Saturn. Modern co-ruler, ORCUS. Aquarius, classic ruler, Saturn. Modern co-ruler, Uranus. Pisces, classic ruler, Jupiter. Modern co-ruler, Neptune. Every sign has a classic ruler that's one of the 7 visible planets. 3 signs are co-ruled by a modern or invisible outer planet, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Uranus can be seen with the naked eye under good conditions, so it isn't entirely invisible. Some argue about whether the outer planets can rule signs or whether only inner planets rule them. Since a rulership is just where a planet expresses most strongly, both can be true, and co-rulerships are valid. As Stephen Forrest describes it, the old rulerships make sense. They work. No need to do away with them. And yet, each of the 3 invisible planets also has an obvious face value connection with a particular sign. No need to deny that either. Rulerships by the slow-moving dwarf planets are similar to the rulerships of the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, in which they co-rule certain signs along with a classical planet. The addition of the 7 dwarves mean that every sign can have both a classic ruler and a modern outer planet co-ruler. This becomes true if we add dwarf planet Ceres as co-ruler of Virgo and the Earth itself, which results in 3 outer and 7 dwarf, and 2 more, which equals 12 planets co-ruling the 12 signs. A complete presentation of rulerships for the 12 signs is in the table shown above that I've just read. The Earth, however, is an unusual planet in astrology, since we're on the Earth and its location is always directly under our feet, conjunct the nadir. Nevertheless, the Earth is given rulerships of signs in esoteric astrology, in which Earth is the esoteric ruler of Sagittarius. Earth can therefore also be seen as a standard ruler of Sagittarius. The planet Vulcan is also given rulership of planets in esoteric astrology. However, Vulcan properly only has esoteric rulerships, since it's truly an etheric planet and not detectable on a physical level. Therefore, Vulcan doesn't appear anywhere in the list of standard co-rulerships. Now, the next subject here is Disney astrology. No mention of the 7 dwarves would be complete without a consideration of the similarly named fairy tale, Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. The Disney version of the story provides names and personalities for the 7 dwarves. Each of the Disney dwarves is related to one of the 7 rays. Although the dwarves are good as a whole, each can also be considered to express negative qualities of their ray, and therefore act as a warning against the potential glamours of that ray. So, ray number 1, will and power. The dwarf ruling over this ray is Sneezy, warning against forcefully projecting spittle or other negativity into the world. Also makes me think of the Kemetic deity Shu. Was it Shu? Or was it... Makes me think of whichever Kemetic deity it was that either sneezed or ejaculated and creation was brought forth from that. Number 2, ray number 2, love and wisdom. The dwarf is bashful. Shyness, codependence, not standing up for oneself are the warnings that come with this ray. Ray number 3 is active creative intelligence. The dwarf associated is sleepy. The warning against too busy or too still. Either way, the right thing doesn't get done. Using one's energy at the right moment, you know. Ray number 4 is harmony through conflict. This dwarf is grumpy. Warning against being always annoyed or finding things wrong with others and the world. Ray number 5 is concrete science. This dwarf is Doc. Warning against being verbose with myopic vision. Literally in his case with the glasses, right? So ray number 6 is idealism and devotion. This dwarf is dopey. Involvement, warning against involvement with causes or things that others find irrelevant or silly. Ray number 7 is order and ceremonial magic. This dwarf is happy. Warning against hedonism or other physical plane enticements. Interestingly, potential dwarf planet GONGGONG, when it was first discovered, was nicknamed Snow White because it was believed to be bright white in color, and that 7 other large trans-Neptunian bodies had been discovered so far. Eventually, GONGGONG was determined to be very red in color, and its official name was given. Next up is dwarf planet moons. Just as planets have moons which orbit them, so do dwarf planets have moons too. All of the 7 dwarves except SEDNA have at least one moon, as does Salacia. Salacia being the next largest body after the 7 dwarves. These planetary moons should have astrological meanings and can be interpreted in a similar fashion as the moons of the inner planets, and be a way to personalize the slow-moving body to each individual. Most of these moons can have their positions computed using web queries to the JPL Horizons site. This can be done in Astrolog 7.60. Yes, so Astrolog is a astrology service as well. I haven't downloaded it yet on my computer. I'm probably going to at some point, but I'm just reading from the site. So, ERIS. Her moon's name is DYSNOMIA, and the keyword is mischief. HAUMEA has 2 moons, HIIAKA, keyword being joy, and NAMAKA, keyword being connection. MAKEMAKE has 1 moon, MK2, unnamed as of now, keyword being direction. GONGGONG has the moon of XIANGLIU, keyword being sabotage. QUAOAR has the moon of WEYWOT, keyword being planning. ORCUS has the moon of VANTH, keyword being restitution. SALACIA has the moon of ACTAEA, keyword being helpfulness. DYSNOMIA. DYSNOMIA is Eris's 1 moon. In mythology, DYSNOMIA is Eris's daughter and the goddess of lawlessness. With Eris itself representing discord, DYSNOMIA can represent how one creates discord, or how specifically one can be lawless, mischievous, or stir things up. Just as Pluto has 1 large moon and 4 others that were discovered later when the New Horizons space probe visited it, presumably the ERIS system is similar, with 1 large moon and other smaller moons that will be discovered too once a probe visits ERIS. HIIAKA. HIIAKA is HAUMEA's larger moon and is located roughly in the same plane as HAUMEA's ring. Yes, HAUMEA does have a ring. HIIAKA is named after one of HAUMEA's daughters, who is the goddess of hula dancing. With HAUMEA itself representing the concept of mothering, HIIAKA can represent the joy or fun aspects of creation and artistic expression. NAMAKA is HAUMEA's smaller moon. NAMAKA is named after one of HAUMEA's daughters, who is the goddess of the sea. With HAUMEA itself representing the concept of mothering, NAMAKA can represent the wider context of mothering, or the sea of context and feelings which surrounds it. That means the idea of connection, whether to our own creation and sacrifices or with other creators. MK2, Makemake's 1 moon, doesn't have an official name yet, so it's given the designation S/2015, or catalog number 136472-1, or MK2 for short. even without a name, we can conjecture its meaning. Planetary moons generally represent particular expressions of their planet. With Makemake itself representing will and the fathering concept, its moon can be how one in particular directs, manifests, or grounds their will within the world. In this sense, not having a name is itself meaningful, since MK2 is about the labels we choose to identify with and assign in our lives. JPL doesn't have accurate orbital data for MK2 yet, which means its position can't be computed yet. MK2 not being available is also meaningful, since this moon indicates how we decide and choose to live our lives, instead of them being determined by anything outside of us. Interesting. XIANGLIU. XIANGLIU is Gonggong's one moon. XIANGLIU is named after the venomous and gluttonous nine-headed snake monster who attended GONGGONG. With GONGGONG itself representing rebellion and integration afterward, XIANGLIU can represent how we specifically rebel or sabotage ourselves or the situations around us, and what we need to do in order to recover from it. JPL doesn't have accurate orbital data for XIANGLIU yet, which means its position can't be computed yet. XIANGLIU not being available is meaningful, since this moon is about rebellion and to a large degree it can't be defined or nailed down. WEYWOT is QUAOAR's one moon. WEYWOT is named after the god of the sky, or the first god who QUAOAR created through dancing. With a sky or air element focus, WEYWOT can represent a mental level manifestation of QUAOAR's energies, or how one plans to produce the positive rituals or laws that QUAOAR represents. VANTH is ORCUS's one moon. VANTH is named after the demon who guides souls to the underworld, to either peace or torture as the case may be. Just as ORCUS represents the reviewing process and determination of good or bad karma, its moon, VANTH, can represent the specific ways in which one gives or receives proper restitution, whether good or bad, for the things they've done. ACTAEA is Salacia's one moon. Now in mythology, ACTAEA is one of the Nereids or helpful sea nymphs. Given the calm, friendly, and pure nature of Salacia itself, and the story of the dolphin who was the messenger between Poseidon and Salacia, the moon ACTAEA can represent helpfulness or the specific positive actions we can take in alignment with the ideals of Salacia. So, I hope that you enjoyed this video. This was a rough intro, just reading over the Astrolog website. And I'll link it in the description below, of course. I will be studying these dwarf planets more and will eventually make videos for each one of them, providing information that I come across. So, I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and subscribe, because I'm going to be making tons more of astrology videos for your beautiful hearts to enjoy. Peace.